ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणम्। Hare Krishna and welcome to today's episode of the Mahabharata. In the last episode, we saw how the Pandavas had escaped from Varanavata, but this fact remained concealed. Not everybody knew of it. Very few selected people were aware of this. And Drupada, having desired to give his daughter's hand in marriage, Draupadi's hand in marriage to Arjuna, was mortified when he heard that the Pandavas had died in the fire in Varanavata. Unknown to Drupada, the Pandavas had escaped, and Drupada, under the misconception that the Pandavas had died, he thought of Swayamvara, where the best of the Kshatriyas could come and win the hand of Draupadi. What was this special, unique Swayamvara, the contest in the Swayamvara that Drupada thought of? We will know about that today. When Krishna appeared on this planet about 5000 years ago, in his instructions to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he descends for the purpose of re-establishing Dharma. Dharma sansthapanaya sambhavami yuge yuge. This is Krishna's instruction on the purpose of his descent to this material world. Now, what is that Dharma that Krishna wanted to establish? That in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. We have to give up all our attachments to various other works, and we have to surrender solely, exclusively unto Krishna. And Krishna says that it is his topmost instruction, his ultimate instruction is Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Krishna said that to become his devotee, to become Krishna's devotee, to offer obeisances to him, to worship him, is the topmost instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, this instruction of Krishna, although very clearly specified in the Bhagavad Gita, many people misunderstood it, many people could not digest it, and even if somebody understood and accepted it, the people did not know how exactly to surrender to Krishna, how to worship Krishna, how to become his devotee. Therefore, about 4500 years later, or about 500 years before today, Lord Krishna again appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in this incarnation as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna showed how to become a devotee of Krishna. So somebody may question, how can Krishna himself play the role of his devotee? This is just like a teacher teaches a student how to write A, B, C, D. This does not mean that the teacher does not know anything beyond A, B, C, D. The teachers know so many things about the language, the grammar, literature, so many things the teacher may know. But for the sake of teaching the student, the teacher writes on the board, you have to write A like this, B like this. So that's the role of a student that the teacher takes in order to teach the student. Similarly, Krishna in order to teach the people how to become a devotee of his, he himself played the role of a devotee as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now somebody may question, how do we claim that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself? How do we know that he is an incarnation? Is he not just some another saint or sadhu whom we are glorifying and we are elevating artificially to the position of God? In the Mahabharata itself, there is a description of the 1000 names of Vishnu, Vishnu Sahasra Nama, which is a very popular stotra which many people, many Indians chant and they know by heart. In this Vishnu Sahasra Nama, which is originally from the Mahabharata, there are 1000 names of Lord Vishnu. Now, in these 1000 names of Lord Vishnu, the different incarnations such as Lord Rama, Parashurama, all their names appear. Along with that, there is the description of one incarnation which is unique. The description goes like this. The description in the Vishnu Sahasranama states that Suvarna Varno Hemango Varangas Chandanangadi. It says there is one incarnation of Vishnu who is golden in complexion, Suvarna Varnaha, golden in complexion, and he is extremely beautiful and his whole body is decorated with the paste of sandalwood pulp. So, who is the incarnation who fits this description? It may seem that practically all the incarnations of the Supreme Lord are very beautiful. So, it may seem that it refers to in general all the incarnations of Vishnu. But then it says golden complexion. Who is that golden complexion incarnation? Lord Krishna was Shyama. He was the dark bluish cloud, water bearing cloud, rain bearing clouds color. Lord Ramachandra is said to be of greenish hue, his complexion. So, who is that incarnation who is golden complexion? The Vishnu Sahasranama makes it even more clearer. It says, Sanyasakritchama Shanto Nishtah Shanti Parayanaha. This incarnation, who is Suvarnavarna, who is golden in complexion, he is Shanti Parayanaha, he is very peaceful. He does not pick up arms like the rest of the incarnations. In every incarnation, the Lord comes because Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Cha Dushkritam. So, to kill the miscreants, the incarnations appear. So, either the Sudarshana Chakra or the various different kinds of weapons the Supreme Lord lifts, or the mace or the gada or something like that, and he annihilates the miscreants in different incarnations. Which is that incarnation which never lifted any weapon and who was very peaceful and spread love of himself? Not only that, Sanyasakritchamaha, who took sannyas. Which is that incarnation? That incarnation is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared in 1486 AD in a place called Navadvip in Bengal. And at the age of 24 years, he took sannyas. And he never took up weapons. He always spread love of Krishna and the chanting of his holy name, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and he inaugurated the Sankirtana Yajna. The Sankirtana movement, the glorification of the Supreme Lord by singing bhajans and kirtans was started by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the other Puranas like Srimad Bhagavatam also it is mentioned that Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Snangopangasra Parshadaihi Yajnaihi Sankirtana Praya Rejantihi Sumedasaha. That in Kali Yuga there is one incarnation of the Supreme Lord who will inaugurate the Sankirtana Yajna. And not only that, in other places of the scriptures it is revealed that this incarnation of Krishna in Kali Yuga will be Channa. He will be a Channa avatara. He will be an incarnation who will not disclose himself to be an incarnation, which is exactly fitting the description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was golden in complexion, extremely beautiful, and he was always decorated with sandalwood pulp, and he traveled everywhere and spread the message of love of Krishna, and he inaugurated the Sankirtana Yajna, in a congregation, people joining together and singing Hare Krishna Mahamantra, irrespective of caste, creed, color, gender, etc. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set aside everything else and gave the holy name of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, to anyone and everyone without any discrimination. So this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incarnation of Krishna in Kali Yuga as described in the confidential parts of the Vedas. Now whenever Krishna descends, Krishna doesn't come alone. When Krishna came, Balaram came with him. When Krishna incarnated as Lord Ramachandra, Balaram also incarnated as Lakshmana. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, when Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Balaram also appeared as Nityananda Prabhu. And this Nityananda Prabhu appeared in a village in the Birbhum district of Bengal, and the name of this village is Ekachakra. Even today, if we go, the place where Nityananda Prabhu appeared and the deity of Bankim Raya he worshipped, these are all great places of pilgrimage in Ekachakra, which devotees of Lord Krishna, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even today visit. Now this Ekachakra Gram, it is a very ancient village. It was not some new village which 500 years ago came into existence during the time of Nityananda Prabhu. This same Ekachakra Gram was present even 5000 years ago. At that time, the Ekachakra Gram, it was a normal village. The people used to conduct their normal activities. There used to be some, the villagers used to do farming, agriculture, some bit of trade, and some few Brahmanas who would worship the local temple. And it was a beautiful village. It's a little bit remote, but still quite surrounded by quite verdant agricultural fields. And even at that time, even 5000 years ago, the village was quite flourishing. Now what happened was, once Rakshasa, a man-eater, Rakshasas are man-eaters, this Rakshasa came across this Ekachakra Gram, which was a little remote, and the village was not sufficiently protected. So this Rakshasa found the residents of the village to be easy prey, and he every day started attacking the village, killing a few people, taking away one of them for his meal, and like this a great disturbance came about in the village. People were afraid to step out after dark. They did not know when this Rakshasa will come and attack. Women were afraid to go to the wells and draw the water. Men were afraid to go to the field and carry out their agricultural activities. Children were afraid to go to their gurukuls. Now in this kind of situation, everybody was living in fear. The village elders in this situation, they all got together and they discussed among themselves, what is the solution for this? Now these Rakshasa are normally very, very powerful. They are much stronger than human beings. So the village elders, they realized that they could not fight with the Rakshasa and defeat him or drive him away from the place or kill him or in some way resolve the situation in that manner. They had to find some other solution. They all discussed among themselves and they realized that actually the Rakshasa, for his meal, he would take away only one human being. But in the process of attacking and taking away one human being, he would kill a few other people and go. The villagers thought that a better deal, let us make the best use of the bad bargain. They thought, let us call this Rakshasa, this name of this Rakshasa was Bakasura. They thought, let us call Bakasura, have a meeting with him and propose to him that he should not come and attack our village. Each villager will take turns, and from every house, one day, one person will voluntarily go to this Bakasura as his meal. That way, Bakasura need not come and attack the villagers. Rest of the villagers can peacefully, they can go about their activities without any fear that whom the Rakshasa is going to attack and take away. And the Bakasura will also be satisfied with this, so our activities will go on peacefully. Having decided like this, all the village elders, they called Bakasura and they discussed with him, and Bakasura also said, fine, I am also fine by this, as long as I am getting my meal every day, I have no issue. So if you are voluntarily sending someone, no problem, that much less effort for me. And like this, a compromise was arranged between Bakasura and the villagers. So Bakasura kept his word, he would not come to the village, and every day from one house, one person would be chosen voluntarily, and that person would go and become the meal of Bakasura. This arrangement settled the matter there. Now in the meantime, the Pandavas, having finished their stay in Bhimtal, and they started again going on foot from place to place. They did not want to stay in one place for too long, for fear that they could be discovered and the news could reach Hastinapura, and who knows what Duryodhana will do. Therefore, the Pandavas made it a policy to keep travelling from place to place, and they wouldn't stay at a place for too long. Like this, they were travelling, and finally they came to one village, and a nice village, and they thought, let us stay here for a few days. And they approached the village and they took refuge in one one person's house. In those days, there were no hotels, there were no lodges, and people very hospitable during those days. In fact, according to the Varnashrama system, one of the duties of Grihastha is that he must engage in dana, he must give in charity, and this charity was obligatory for all Grihasthas. Every Grihastha had to give in dana. By giving dana, by giving in charity to saintly people, the Grihastha, whatever money he would earn, that money would get purified. This was the understanding. And not only that, when a Grihastha would give in charity to a saintly person, the saintly person in return would give him some transcendental knowledge, some spiritual knowledge, which would help the person orient himself and keep his sight on the ultimate goal of life, which was to attain moksha or liberation from this material world. So the entire society at that time was oriented towards ultimately getting liberated from this cycle of birth and death in this material world. And so accordingly, all these practices and customs used to be in place. On account of this practice, every day when the Grihastha would have his meal ready at home, he would step out of the house and he would announce, is there anybody hungry in the street? You are welcome to come and take food at my home. And like this, he would announce 2 or 3 times. If there was any sadhu or some such person who was hungry in the street, or some traveler who was going to some other place and happens to be passing by that village, they would immediately come in, and without asking any questions, asking for his Aadhaar card, voter ID, etc., the person would be welcomed. He would be provided food, he would be provided a place to stay. The person could stay as long as he would wish to, and then in this manner the Grihastha would practice the principle of dana. It used to be a very good system, and therefore those days, like I said, there were no hotels, there were no lodges, there were no restaurants. These things were never in practice those days. When the Pandavas came to this village, naturally, of course, the Pandavas were in disguise. They were dressed like ordinary common folk. So this man thought, okay, some family, they are traveling, itinerants, they have come to this village. So he invited them and he told them, you can stay in my house for a few days. Now the Pandavas, when they were staying here, one day suddenly they heard some commotion in the house, and the host, whoever was the owner of the house, he and his family were crying. Kunti Devi approached the host and asked him, why are you crying? What is the problem? Is there some way we can help? If there is some distress, some issue, is there some way we can be of assistance to you? After all, he was taking such good care of them, giving them place to stay, prasadam to eat and all that. So naturally, Kunti Devi asked him. So he said, no, this is an internal affair of ours. You don't have to worry. But then Kunti Devi did not, she was quite persistent, and she said, no, please tell me, some way if we can help, we will try to help. Then this host, he revealed to Kunti Devi that actually this village is was the same Ekachakra gram. And so he told Kunti Devi that about the whole story about this Bakasura and the arrangement which the village had made with him. And that day, it was the turn of this host's house to send one member of their family to Bakasura as his meal. So naturally, the whole family, the husband, the wife, the children, the parents, they were all sitting and discussing who will go to Bakasura. And each person was saying, I will go, and the others are saying, no, I will go. Like this, there was disagreement among themselves. Each of them wanted to go himself while the others were not allowing. And so this was the commotion going on. When Kunti Devi heard this, she said, no, why should you go? I will send one of my sons. Then the host said, no, how can you do that? You are our guest. Atiti Devo Bhava, we have to take good care of you. It is my duty to protect you. I cannot send your sons into the jaws of death. Not possible. But Kunti Devi managed to convince him with great difficulty, and she said, don't worry, I have 5 sons. One son goes, it's not a problem. But you have such a small family. How will you manage your family if any one of your members goes away? So like that, she also argued with him and finally convinced him. Of course, Kunti Devi was confident that Bhima, she was thinking of, in her mind she was thinking she will send Bhima. And she knew already Bhima had killed Hidimba. So one Rakshasa he had already killed, and so she was confident that even this Rakshasa will be taken care of by Bhima. So why Kunti Devi also offered is also because it is the duty of a Kshatriya to protect the citizens. And naturally, when she saw that this family is in difficulty, her Kshatriya spirits came to the fore, and she thought, we cannot sit idly, we have to go forward and protect these people. But externally, of course, she did not say all these things because she did not want them to know that they are Kshatriyas. Now, having managed to convince the family, Kunti Devi called upon Bhima and told him, like this is the situation. She called all her sons and explained to them that this is the situation and this Rakshasa has to be killed. So all the Pandavas and Kunti Devi together, they chose Bhima, and Bhima also very happily, he went forward. And as was the custom, Bakasura was waiting for his meal, and then Bhima appeared on the spot. But Bhima was no ordinary meal. He had not come there to become the meal of Bakasura. And on the other hand, he challenged Bakasura to a fight, and there was a humongous fight between the two of them, and each of them showing his might and strength. But ultimately, Bhima, being the more powerful of the two, he prevailed over Bakasura, and he managed to vanquish Bakasura. And he came back successfully to the village, having killed Bakasura. And in this way, Ekachakra gram became free of the torment of the Rakshasa Bakasura. Even today, if you go to Ekachakra gram, there is a small pond called Pandav Tal, where it is said that the Pandavas used to, when they were in Ekachakra gram, they used to stay in that place. So even today, that place where the Pandavas stayed is there. Of course, now it's a small pond. In fact, in Ekachakra gram, there is also the fossilized kneecap of Bakasura, who was killed by Bhima. Even today, if you go to Ekachakra, you can also see, apart from Pandav Tal, you can also see the fossilized kneecap of Bakasura. It is there even today. Now, in Panchala Desha, Drupada, as we had mentioned earlier, wanted to come up with a unique, very tough contest wherein only the best of the warriors could win the hand of Draupadi. He thought of an archery contest in which there was a long pole, and at the top of the pole there was a small fish hanging at the top. Now, if somebody has to pierce that fish with an arrow, it's not going to be easy because the pole was quite tall. But Drupada was not satisfied with the level of difficulty. He introduced one more level of difficulty. Below the fish, there was a rotating wheel. The wheel was constantly rotating, and this wheel had many spokes. So anybody who would have to shoot the fish, his arrow would have to pass through the spokes and then attack the fish. So quite difficult, not easy, because when you shoot the arrow, when the wheel is moving, suddenly when the arrow reaches the wheel, if the spoke comes in between, then the arrow will not reach its target. But still, Drupada was still not satisfied with the level of difficulty. He said, the person who is shooting the arrow should not be able to directly see the fish. He created a small tank of water beneath the pole from which the fish was suspended, and he filled it with water. And he said the archer has to look at the reflection and then shoot the arrow. Difficult, it has become very difficult now. Now Drupada was still not satisfied with the level of difficulty. So he said the water in the tank should not be still. It should be constantly moving. There should be constant ripples in that tank of water. Now you can imagine, there is water in the tank. In that reflection you have to look at the fish, and below the fish there is the revolving wheel, and there are spokes which the arrow has to pass through. And then the image, the reflection of that fish in the water is also not still. It is constantly moving up and down. How you imagine the level of difficulty? Still, Drupada was not satisfied with the level of difficulty. Practically, it was impossible for anyone to do this, but even then, Drupada said, we have to introduce one more level of difficulty. And what was that? He said, the person has to look at the moving reflection of the fish in the water. He has to shoot the arrow. It has to pass through the revolving wheel spokes, and it should not just hit the fish or pierce the fish. It has to pierce the eye of the fish. So now it is next to impossible to do this. Having made this arrangement, now Drupada said, okay, this is the contest. If somebody has to win, he must be really special. That man will definitely be a suitable man to marry my daughter Draupadi, because Draupadi is also not ordinary. She was born not in the ordinary way, but she came out from the fire sacrifice. So, having thought of this contest, Drupada sent invitations all over the world. Now, what happened in that contest in the Swayamvara? Please join us in our next episode to know about this. Thank you for joining us. Hare Krishna. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.